Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist turned mindset and high-performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. This episode is brought to you by Pulsetto, the vagus nerve stimulator that biohacks your parasympathetic nervous system. Let's face it, we can't avoid stress in our lives, but we can learn how to handle it better. And in order to do that, we need to relearn how to switch our body's programming from the constant fight-or-flight mode back to the rest and repair mode. And you're probably thinking, that's certainly easier said than done when you A, don't have much time, and B, don't know how to do that. And that's where the Pulsetto device can be super helpful. It uses electrostimulation to help you activate your parasympathetic nervous system in as little as 4 minutes a day. 86% of users report feeling calmer and less stressed after using Pulsetto, and I can vouch for that. I've had some trouble with sleep, therefore I especially love the 10-minute sleep setting that helps me relax and fall asleep faster. And as we all know, good sleep is so important. So if you have trouble relaxing and you've been looking for a way to improve your sleep, why not give this a try? For more info, check out episode 208 of the podcast, in which I interview the co-founder of Pulsetto. And for a 10% discount on your order, go to pulsetto.tech/wiredforsuccess. That's pulsetto.tech/wiredforsuccess. Enjoy. Without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. My guest today is Dr. Darby Bonomi, who brings psychological guidance, strategies, and perspective for top performance and full enjoyment of your competitive experience. For over 30 years, Dr. Bonomi has facilitated positive transformations in individuals of all ages. A practicing psychologist and consultant, Darby has worked with clients around the globe to achieve higher performance, greater well-being, and sustained happiness in their lives and work. A firm believer that mental health is the foundation of overall wellness and the basis for high performance, her first priority is to ensure her clients have effective mental and emotional practices that are aligned with their vision. Darby is an expert at untangling the complicated situations that often arise when the demands of high performance interfere with optimal functioning. And I think we've all been there. So welcome, Darby, and thank you so much for being on my show today.
Oh, thank you so much, Claudia. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to this. Darby, maybe we should start with a little bit of background. Can you tell us your story? How did you end up doing what you do today?
Well, I am a clinical psychologist and psychoanalyst by training. I spent a couple decades working clinically with people, mostly adults and adolescents. And then I had a career change for various reasons. I decided to take a little time off to raise my 3 wonderful children. And when I came back into practice, I decided I wanted to work in the area of well-being and health rather than in disease. And so I taught a lot of parenting classes. I consulted in schools. And then I actually sort of fell into what I'm doing now, which is really my passion. I work with athletes and high performance equestrians, a lot of them, since that is also who I am. And people just naturally started to ask me to help them with their anxiety, their nerves, their performance, their children. And that just grew naturally. And I jumped in and made it official. And then one of the joys that sort of, again, emerged or evolved over time is I've started to work with entrepreneurs, many of whom are in the horse industry. Our industry at the highest levels is filled with entrepreneurs, right? Business owners, anyone who has a horse training business is an entrepreneur, and actually, has to wear a lot of hats, an amazing number of hats. So more than half of my work right now, more than half of my practice is with entrepreneurs, mainly in this industry, but also outside of it. So, and I'm still a competing equestrian. I go all the time to horse shows and bring my 3 horses and enjoy it. So I'm really happy at this point in my career to have merged. I'm an entrepreneur myself, of course, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that's a bit of my story.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And how would you say is what you do now different from the clinical setting that you used to work in? So what are the main differences?
Well, the main difference is I used to work with people suffering with clinical depression, clinical anxiety, really people very, very stuck in their lives. And at this point, I'm working with high functioning individuals. I mean, we all have, goodness knows, we all have anxiety, and we have, depressed, tough times, right? But there's a difference. And I could go into that, but I don't know if we want to spend all our time on that. The difference between something that's clinical that we need to diagnose and maybe we give medication for, et cetera, and those high performance individuals who are experiencing up and downs, right? That's a different group of people. And one of the things I appreciate about my background, in contrast to a lot of people that are in my space, is I do have that clinical background. So I know very quickly whether we're getting into a clinical area, whether someone needs a different kind of treatment or needs, traditional treatment in some way. And in my clients, sometimes I'm working alongside someone who's working clinically, but at this point, I really steer mostly clear of doing clinical work. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And is that because it was like too hard emotionally? Would you say that it really like affected you as a person as well, working with people who are like chronically ill and need all that attention?
Maybe a small piece of that. I think I really wanted to work in the area of health, and I wanted to bring all my training and my education to help people stay healthy. So for instance, one of the things that I did during my transition to what I do now is I worked in schools and I consulted with school administrators and teachers and taught them some of the signs, especially kids communicate with behavior, not so much with words. So I help them understand what these kids might be communicating. So before we get to the point of a disease, right, of mental illness, there's a lot we can do, especially with those people who are in the front lines, teachers, administrators, seeing kids, and also working with parents, helping them understand what their what their child might be struggling with before we get to the point of they're so anxious, right? Or they're so in trouble that we need treatment. So I think that really kind of fired me up more, and allowed me also to kind of spread the wealth in terms of my education and training. The other thing that I really love to do is teach and mentor. And I found myself teaching a lot in hospitals and, helping other clinicians kind of come through the ranks. And that it just, kind of made me flower more, Claudia, at that point.
I totally get that. I totally get that.
Sorry to interrupt you. It is true that working with a really heavy caseload of very depressed and anxious people is, it weighs on you sometimes, for sure. And that's why when you're working clinically, you always have lots of support, consultation, your own personal support is really necessary so that you don't burn out.
Yeah, I bet it is, because I know that I couldn't do that kind of work. It would just be too heavy. Because like I'm an empath and I feel what others are feeling, and it's really hard to set the right boundaries and not get affected. So I think you have to be a special kind of person to not get affected.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think we also have to put a plug in for the joys of helping people. When a light bulb goes on
Yeah.
somebody, when you see them kind of come to life in a way that they haven't come to life, right. So I don't want to minimize those either, because that's the joy of doing the clinical work. And I still think of some of those patients that I had back in the day. I mean, I still am a Freudian psychoanalyst. So I really worked in a deep way with a lot of people. And I still think sometimes about the progress that we made over years, and really helping people set their life on track. So that's also what gets you through some of the harder times with your clients as you go through their struggles with them.
Yes, absolutely. Now, when we talk about high achievers, we have to talk about perfectionism as well, right? Now, can you break down the difference? Because we often think about it as a double-edged sword, right? It has constructive as well as destructive forms. So how does someone recognize which side they are on, so to speak?
Well, let's see. How I would talk about this is that, right, every high achiever is a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody I work with in my practice is a perfectionist, right? I mean, we don't achieve things. I think most of us, or I don't know these people actually, who, right? So we're always, all of us who are in this space, right, are managing our perfectionism, I think, right? It's so. So what I would say is that, for the constructive side, we got to learn to love our perfectionism, right? I mean, I'm old now, but I have come to love my perfectionism, right? It drives me. It's a fire. It pushes me to try new things, right? If I'm writing a paper, to make it that much better, right? So I always encourage people, like, love your perfectionism. But if it gets into what I like to call the red zone, then we have to work on it some, right? And the red zone is when we become overly perfectionistic, when I can't possibly turn in this article or give this article to someone that I'm writing, because I can't write. It's just not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good enough, right? I'm suffocated. I'm stymied. And that's what happens when our perfectionism is in the red zone. We get stuck. Also, we get too focused on making a mistake, and as entrepreneurs, we're always trying new things, right? We have to experiment. We have to tolerate that we're going to try something new. Possibly it will fail. We will refine it over time. We have to, right? And if our perfectionism is strangling us, so we feel afraid to try something new, then we're in trouble, right? I have a client right now, really smart woman. She's trying to start a new venture. But she wants everything lined up. She wants it all perfect.
Yeah.
She wants to know where she's going to end up in, a year or 6 months or 2 years. And, I'm just trying to get her to, get her claws out of that perfectionism and be willing to try. Yes, it might, this experiment might fail, but you're going to learn something from that failure. See, that's the thing. When the perfectionism is in the red zone, right, we lose our creativity. And for entrepreneurs, I feel like, we're dead in the water if we lose our creativity. We're all about creativity, right?
So true.
And so the how do you handle it when you're in the red zone? Let's see. First of all, you got to recognize that you're in the red zone, right? Hopefully, you have a bit of a sense of humor about it, right? That you, I always say, you got to learn to love your perfectionism, and you also have to learn to leave it, right? You have to learn that something is good enough. Again, you have to be able to feel that, that you can risk a mistake, because a mistake, you'll learn from it. So I think the last thing I'd say about this for now is that I really encourage people to have a process mindset, or a student mindset, a learning mindset. What am I going to learn from this? Right? Because hopefully we as entrepreneurs are always learning every single day. I know I am.
Exactly. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, as I like to say.
That's right. Right. And hopefully, even when you win, Claudia, you learn, right? You learn something about, that worked. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. But I always feel like you learn even more from failure, because you reflect more. I'm not sure what it is, but somehow most of the important lessons in life you probably learn from failure rather than from your successes.
Well, that's an interesting point, if I just can hover on that for a minute.
Sure.
Because I work mostly with women, right? Most, almost 99% of the folks I work with are women. And Claudia, women will tend to, it's true what you're saying, but I do feel that they will bring me their mistakes. They want to talk about the mistakes.
Right.
And while I agree with you. We have to learn from our mistakes. What didn't go right in whatever. But I also want my clients to hover on the successes, right? If you're in a performance situation, say my competitive athletes, I want you to replay in your mind what went well, because that is mental practice.
It is.
Right? And so many women hover on their mistakes, what they didn't do right, that they fail to really take in and amplify what went well. So that's why I'm careful about that. I want to learn from mistakes, but I want you to really think about, what your successes were and how you brought them about.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's such an important point, because, as you know, our brains are made to focus on the negative. So we have this negativity bias. And as you mentioned, it's really important to kind of prime our brains by thinking about the positive and about the good things and about everything that went well, so that we build those new pathways, and it allows us to stay more in the flow and maybe less in the anxiety zone. So I totally agree.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I would say that many, if not all of us high performers, we are secretly battling those inner demons. And it could be like imposter syndrome, it could be just the fear of failure, or some other sort of self-sabotage. In your work, what's the most unexpected shadow trait that you have seen in top achievers, and how can they transform it into an asset?
Interesting question. The most common shadow trait. You mean that's something that you wouldn't think?
Mhm.
Um,
Something underneath that drives success, but in itself is more like a demon.
I would say actually perfectionism. I mean,
Yes.
not to go back to the
Yeah.
topic we already sort of went on, but I think we have to manage that always. Like the Olympians say I work with, or this woman that I mentioned earlier. I think I have written so much on my blog and everything about perfectionism, because I will deal all day with all the client with variations of perfectionism. And why it, right? So like, right, you're push to be the very best, but then if we over push, it really cripples, right? It cripples performance. It stops us, like I said earlier, from experimenting, from being creative, from trying new things, from thinking big, right? So because the perfectionism will get into, kind of eats away at our self-esteem. And so I always have my eye on that.
Mm.
And I'll give you a personal example because I think this will resonate with people. I give a lot of talks, and now I'm pretty comfortable doing it, but it took me a while to get there. And if I find myself overly critical of how I'm speaking, oh, I'm not articulate enough, blah 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 blah, I can't say a thing. Right? I'm deer in headlights. Right?
Yeah.
I have to let myself, I have to accept that I won't, it'll be good enough that I can connect with my audience and just talk. It's the same as if I'm writing an article and I'm so perfectionistic. I get stuck, I get frozen. And so I'm circling back to our initial topic, but really, Claudia, it is the demon that high performers have to battle really every single day, and I want to correct that. I don't want to say battle perfectionism. I want to say harness it, manage it, becomes friends with it, right? Because it's not an enemy, like we said. It's really your friend. But we're always tending to it.
Right. But what do you think is driving that? I mean, most people think they're chasing success, but they are really chasing a feeling of, say, validation, of peace, of excitement, or of love. What do you think that high achievers most commonly search, like at their core, and how can they maybe shortcut that endless chase?
Well, you're right. They're chasing usually some sense of achievement. A lot of the really high achievers, right? They want to be the best, right? It's an internal battle, less of an external. I mean, it is external. I'm competing, but they want it for themselves, right? They want to build something. They want to be something. It's this internal drive. Sorry, you asked me say again what the question was.
So what are they chasing, like, underneath? Do you think it's more the validation? Because I personally, I'm a perfectionist as well. And I think for me, a lot of it is this feeling of validation, like outside validation, that's driving a lot of the perfectionism. Is that something that you see, or is there something else out there?
I think you're right. I think a lot of it is. And I would try to, with my clients, I try to turn that into internal validation.
Yeah.
Right? And also bring it down to, what are you chasing? What do you want? Like, let's bring it down to achievable milestones. Right? Yes, you have your long-term. I always think big picture, long-term. This is where I'm going. This is where my business is going. Whatever it is we're talking about, that's my direction. I want to be aligned with that. But then I want to know, what do I want to achieve? This year, in 6 months, in 3 months, and I break that down to, what is today about? Right? How can I show up fully today? Because that then allows you to have self-validation, right? For instance, for me personally, you and I are similar, right? We're hard drivers. At the end of the day, I say to myself, hopefully this is true most days, I did a good job today. I did what I could today. This is what I did. I'll put it away, and then tomorrow I'll take it up again.
Yeah.
Right? And that's actually really important. We haven't talked about that, Claudia, but we could get into it, is burnout in high achievers.
Oh, yeah. Been there, done that.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. You had another guest a few weeks ago who I listened to, had some interesting things to say, a gentleman, I've forgotten his name, about burnout. So that is a real occupational hazard for high achievers, right? And so it's really important that internal validation is really important, is one of the aspects, or one of the variables that we really have to focus on if we're going to keep ourselves from getting burned out. Otherwise, right, you've never achieved enough, right?
That's exactly the point. And I think that's why so many high achievers burn out, because it's this underlying feeling of never being good enough. And that is something that's so hard to get rid of. So what would be your best tips for working on that for people who are struggling with the not enoughness?
Well, again, I would say that you've got to break it down, right? If you're feeling right, you in your business, I assume, right, you have your goals, you have what you're working on, you know where you're going, right? You're a very organized, I know you're a scientist. I'm sure you've got it lined out, right? You know where you're going. You're not there yet because you're working on it. So I would have you think about, what are you doing, say, this week to build your business, or to craft it, or to develop whatever new things you're developing? What are you doing today toward that goal? You have to have achievable tasks or goals, whatever word you want to use, so that you too can say at the end of the day, I did a good job today. I moved that along. I talked to that person. Absolutely, right? We have to have these markers. Otherwise, you end up in the abyss. So whether you're an athlete and we're talking about you wanting to, achieve a certain time, or whatever it is, I work with a lot of riders. This comes up all the time. I got to break it down. I'll say, I know you want to be champion. I know you want to win the gold medal. We can't be thinking about, we know that, but we can't be thinking about that, right? We've got to be thinking about, what are we doing right now? What am I trying to achieve right now in this task? And then give yourself a pat on the back, right? I did that. So I think managing your long-term goals, your daily goals, and also acknowledging, goes back to what we said earlier, acknowledging when you do something well, right?
Yeah.
And women have a really hard time with that. So I work vigorously on that, especially with my young women, because they have a really hard time saying, I did that well.
Yeah, I know. And what I also notice in myself, as well as in others around me, or people I work with, is that you have these moving goalposts. Like you have the milestones, but as soon as you reach them, it's like, yeah, okay, but there's the next one, because there's again this never enough. So it kind of seems like milestones are great, but they also don't seem to be enough to make people feel like they have done enough, they have achieved, they have done well.
So that's what you have to work on, right? I'm sorry.
I don't know.
You can feel full. I posted about this last week because it comes up so often, working on feeling full, for lack of a better, and still achieving, right?
Yeah.
Because I find so many women, especially women entrepreneurs, need to, right? They feel less than, they have to sort of make themselves feel less than in order to keep achieving. I'm not saying that quite right, but it's like, well, what about,
I know what you mean, yeah.
Right? What if you felt, I really have achieved something and I am still striving? The striving doesn't have to come from a place of lack.
Exactly. But it
Uh,
does. It's in so many times, so often it does, right? It comes from a feeling of lack rather than of a feeling of, I don't know, excitement, trying to achieve something.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing I just want to mention, because I say it so often in my work with people, and I always remind my clients, there's no shame in starting. Because people are embarrassed about, right? I have so many clients who are young and their business is young, and they're sort of, they have the imposter syndrome, right? They sort of feel ashamed of being at the beginning. And I have to remind them, look, there's no shame in starting anything. Everybody had to start somewhere. No matter what you're doing, you have to start. There's no shame in that, right? So step into being at the beginning, whatever that means. And so that really helps people. People are like, oh, right. You don't start at the top. You start at the beginning, right?
Exactly.
Um,
So, what are the biggest misconceptions that people have about resilience? Because that's part of being resilient. And how can they start building it today? So, what are the first steps to maybe start building that?
um, well, I think first of all is to value it, right? To know, I mean, you said that at the beginning, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you you got to value resilience, right? You have to know that it's not going to be steady progress every single day. There are going to be ups and downs, right? There are going to be days when things fall into line, and then there's going to be days or weeks or even months when you're really struggling in certain ways. And so I think knowing that and accepting that's, just because you're in a dry spell or you're struggling, that doesn't mean it's a failure. That's just part of the process. So I think knowing and being truthful about what the process is, say to build a business, because I work with people all the time that want to start their business and build it. Yeah, you got to start at the beginning, and you've got to do beginning things. And a lot of, and yeah, it's going to be hard. Most entrepreneurs, though, they're tough, they understand that. But so valuing resilience, I think, is really important. Seeing the long term of where you're going. I think it really helps to have mentors who have, gone along a similar path. People to support you, to remind you when you're down in the, in the dumps and something, right? You're really struggling. No, this is how it goes, right? And there was something else I was going to say. Oh, it goes back to what we keep going over and over is, knowing that every mistake, every failure, there's learning in it, right? Right. You're a scientist, and I don't know much about your previous work, but when you do an experiment and it fails, right?
It fails often.
Right? It's not a failure. It's just that whatever right? The experiment
work.
That's the mindset, I think, right? If you start a new aspect of your business and it fails, then you've learned something. And the only real failure is not learning from that.
Right. So true. Now, in your experience, what are the hidden costs of high achievement, and how do we balance ambition with well-being in a way that doesn't feel like we are giving up our edge? Because that's one of the concerns I always get from high achievers. It's like when I take a step back, maybe, or when I take things slow, I just fear that I'm giving up my edge.
I know. It's so hard, right? It is so hard. But as I say a lot, rest is an essential part of the performance cycle. So, and I use that for my athletes, but it's true for my entrepreneurs too, right? That we need to factor in, or we need to put into our routine time off, rest, right? Powering down. We need to be able to power down in order to power up. We can't stay at 100% or 150% all the time. I know this for myself, right? Yeah. Our productivity goes down. Our creativity goes down. We get cranky, depressed, burned out, the whole thing. So it's really important to that's why I say rest is a part of the performance cycle. Because if you think about it that way, then you don't feel like it's, oh, I'm slacking off or I'm being lazy, right? Because if you're an athlete, you can't do the same workout every day. No, right? If you're a high performance athlete, you have a very careful routine of practice, and you have to vary it. And there's different kinds of workouts depending on what kind of athlete you are, but rest is important, right? Recovery for your muscles, etc. But that's true for us too. I know personally, because I get in these creative storms, and but then I need to power down, right? And in whatever way that is, maybe that's, taking a hike. Maybe that's, it could be small things. Sometimes in my entrepreneurs, when they're working so hard, I say, okay, take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, right? Get up, do something else. In your mind, say, I'm taking a break right now. And the more you do this, if you practice this in whatever way it fits your life, you will find that you'll come back to whatever it is, whatever problem it is or challenge, something creative or not, you will feel more creative. You will be more productive. And when you learn that, then you're more likely to build the powering down into your routine.
Yeah, it's so much more obvious for athletes because you need the recovery time, and recovery time is built into your schedule because it makes sense. But that's something that entrepreneurs oftentimes just, don't think about. But it's so important. And it brings me kind of to the paradox of entrepreneurship, if you want. Like, you sometimes have to let go to achieve more, and the harder you grip, the more elusive your success can become. Have you seen examples where this letting go of control or expectations or even identity has led to breakthroughs?
Absolutely. Right? A lot of times we're trying too hard, right? So I'm thinking of, we haven't talked examples, but I'm thinking of someone who's sort of a creative, right? And is something, and they've got challenges, but the work becomes grindy. You know what I mean by that?
I know what you mean.
And when it gets like that, usually that is a red flag, that especially in a creative venture, that we need to do what you said, to let go. Because we're working too hard. And I think we all know, I know this from myself. When I'm sitting down, I'm going to write something and it's so hard, I know I got to take a break because it shouldn't be that hard. It's not that hard. Right. And when I'm in a different space, right, I'm a little rested or more inspired, whatever I'm doing, I'll do it in a third of the time. I'll be much more efficient and it'll be better. Right? So I think really being right, that's a real red flag. I would encourage everybody that even if they're dealing with an employee situation that they're trying to figure out, if it's really getting grindy and hard, that's a time to take a step back. Right? Giving yourself space, allowing your creativity to flow in again. That just so many times helps. And again, if you do that, if you allow yourself to do this, you'll come to rely on it more. You'll come to realize that it is the solution, right? Yeah.
I agree. I think when you find the joy again, you get back into flow, and that allows you to do everything with so much more ease.
Absolutely. No, I say that all the time, right? That that is a key, Claudia, finding the joy again. Yeah. And people look at me like, well, when I'm doing well, then I'm joyful. And I said, no,
the other way around.
It is. Absolutely. Whether you're talking about a sport, whether you're talking about your business, right? You're right. When the joy goes out, when it's too painful and grindy, right? Connect into the joy, the gratitude for whatever it is we're doing. Then you become much more expansive and creative. Yeah.
Now, if we zoom out, what is your big picture philosophy on success and happiness? How do you personally measure whether you are living a fulfilled life?
For me personally, I am, well, I think it goes to what we're talking about, the joy,
The joy.
right? I think, I really love what I do. I get a real kick out of, I just really enjoy working with people and helping them turn the light bulbs on. And after all these years of doing it, it's not hard for me. It's fun for me. I take great pleasure in it, and I'm grateful. I think I'm also really grateful to do what I do. So all of that is a measure of success to me, and that I'm uh, at my age really enjoying what I do, really feeling full of myself in that way of like, I feel like I'm really bringing my full self to my work and my daily
Mm.
life. And that makes me really happy. I spent a lot of years doubting myself and having imposter syndrome and the whole thing. And I think I feel very successful in what I'm doing now because I enjoy it so much. Um, and yeah, I think that's what I can say about that. Well, thank you for that question. That's it. That's a great question. How do you measure success? That's how I measure success.
I love that. Now, do you have any daily or maybe weekly habits that you swear by? What are your non-negotiables in your own routine?
Oh, I'm all about routine, Claudia. I absolutely.
Same here.
So yeah, no, absolutely. And I think all high performers have to. You have to have your routines that set you up for
Mhm.
performing at your best. It doesn't just happen, right? I don't get out of bed saying, yes, I wish I did, but I don't exactly. So I would say for, physical action, my physical fitness is a key to my mental fitness. And as we get older, we don't take our physical fitness for granted anymore, or our mental fitness. So that's really key for me. I very much keep to my routine of physical fitness. And it really impacts my, my happiness and my readiness to perform in the ways that I have to perform. I also have a meditation practice. It's really important for me and I do it daily, sometimes, a couple times. It's not a long practice, but when I find myself getting, too, too buzzy in my head and too, like that,
Yeah.
I do it daily in the morning to kind of ground myself, get myself fully present, and I'll, really set my intentions for today, how I want to show up. That's really important to me. Other routines, going to ride my horses is very important to me. I'm better for all my clients after I ride and train my horses. Um, I think the last thing I'll say, I'm very routinized about what I eat and all that stuff, but because I want to show up fully, right? I want to show up as my best self. So all that is important to me. And lastly, I think really being connected to my gratitude
Mm.
for every day. I have a gratitude practice that I connect in with. What am I grateful for right now in this moment? And I feel like it can transform me from, oh, I'm anxious about this, or I'm worried about that, or blah, 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 into, no, I'm really grateful to be here today, to not have pain in my body, to get
Mm.
to meet you and be here and learn something from you. And I feel that really transforms my mental state and my just my sense of well-being. So highly recommended.
Yeah, there's always something to be grateful for, right? Is
Absolutely.
is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience today?
Oh, uh, uh,
Or did
I
we talk about all the important stuff?
We did. We covered a lot of great areas, Claudia. I just think that, I think the last piece that you brought up about routine and habits are really important. Like really cultivate your habits. Like success doesn't just happen. It's cultivated, right? And you work on it every single day. I encourage people to work on their habits that support their success and their well-being, because success, right? Success without, mental and physical well-being isn't, it's not real success in my mind. So really cultivate those habits. And the last thing I'll say is that, habits really create our identity.
They do. They really do.
Right. So, did I want to get out of bed this morning and do my workout? Well, sort of, because I do it. I don't really, I don't think of it as a choice, but I also do it because I identify as an athlete and a performer. So it's aligned. So doing that, getting up and doing my rolling and stretching and all the stuff I have to do, right? It aligns with an identity that I have crafted, right? And so, it becomes a lot easier to perform those behaviors or do right because they're aligned. So I would encourage everyone to think about your habits. Are they aligned with who you identify? And if not, then line them up, right?
Yeah, those are the most successful habits that you build that are aligned with the identity that you want to, like, the person you want to become. So you have to build the habits of the person that you want to become.
So well said. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, where can our listeners find you online if they would like to learn more about you or connect with you?
Well, there's my website, darbybonomi.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. Those are all the great places. You could definitely, there's lots of information on my website, and you can reach me through my email or my phone numbers there. So that's where I am.
Perfect. Darby, thank you so much for sharing your tips and insights with us today. It's really been a pleasure talking with you.
So fun, Claudia. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Keep up the great work. Take care and talk soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show or share it with a friend. That way you can support the show and help me reach and support other entrepreneurs like yourself as well. If you would like my help to figure out how you can go from overwhelmed and overworked hustler to empowered and confident leader, check out my website at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions and book a free 20-minute strategy session with me. Can't wait to help you get wired for success. Until next time, take care. Bye.